Cardinal fans, welcome to this week's edition of Inside the Cardinal Playbook. Of course, I'm here with Coach Kruse. Good to talk a little bit about last week over in McHenry. And Coach, conference game, we did drop our second conference game of the year, but we, you look at it, we were down, we come back, tie it up 2020. Just your take generally on Saturday and how you felt as far as from where you were standing. And I know it's the hardest place to stand sometimes.
Yeah, I guess big picture thinking, if somebody would have told me at the beginning of the season that, hey, with 2 games to go, you'd be tied at second in the conference. That's probably a pretty good place to be. It just doesn't feel like it as much right now because of the last 2, and didn't feel like we've executed the last couple of weeks like we were executing there for a stretch earlier in the middle of the season. So, that there was some good and bad, as there always is, whether you win or lose. And, I thought, positives were, being down 10 or 20-10 at half, and one of those resulting in a special teams miscue, and we snapped the ball over the punter's head that you can't do in the red zone, and we fought back and got it tied up again, and really thought we were going to get going then, and then had a few other things help us or happen that really just didn't help us. And that's a good football team. The quarterback, as you watched and as you well know, he makes them go, and tough kid. We kept hitting him and hitting him and hitting him pretty good sometimes, and he just kept making plays. And so we've got to continue to work at that and be a little bit sharper, in all areas of the game right now. We're like Coach Weigel had the best analogy. I thought the car's running, it's just not idling quite like it was. So we got to adjust the timing belt or something to get it tuned up a little bit.
And you have to do that during the course of 11 weeks.
Injuries and different things
Absolutely.
add to all of that, but you hope you put the next part in there, and you keep on running the same way you were with the last part, and sometimes that takes a little more time.
Third down conversions.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at that at the end of the game when I was going over it on the radio. And they were very successful. And then I was thinking about the week before, Quincy was pretty successful on third down conversions. And I really didn't have the statistical look of the 4 wins we had there. But it really has been a big factor in both of these losses that we couldn't get off the field on third down. And sometimes, Coach, it was third down and long.
Yeah, you're very perceptive as you've been around this game a long time. In those wins, those 3 wins in a row before these last 2 losses, we were dominant on third down. And, a lot of it was getting them to third and long situations. They converted a couple third and longs the other day, but for the most part they were third in 5 or less type situations, and we didn't get off the field. And that's an area we've been very, very good at, and on the games we've been successful. And we need to get back to those ways. That's when we're playing good defense, we're good on third down. And that's what we're going to get back to.
Well, the thing that got me about the Bearcats over at McHenry was you told me they were going to be physical.
Mm-hmm.
And but 92, he comes in, he's 6'2", 230, but he was just about unstoppable, and particularly in the first half.
They are good on the defensive front.
They really
as good
are.
A defensive front team as we played all year, and we knew it going in. I mean, those guys are. They've been tough all year. They're up there in the conference in sacks.
Right.
And we handled it okay at times, and other times in some key situations we didn't. And, and part of it wasn't all on the offensive line and protection. Some of it was, timing in the pocket and movement in the pocket and some of those things too. And like I said, the motor didn't run as well as it had been running last Saturday, and we've got to get some things adjusted and tuned up.
Yeah, because the turnover situation was better for us, and we
had some takeaways and didn't give it away a lot, and the special teams one with the snap over the head, that was a costly situation at the time. Anytime you do that, it's going to be costly, but there's a lot of other good things as you look at it, and that's what's so frustrating about it is, you go out there and it depends on how you look at the stats, and you can always make stats look however you want them to look, but there's some really good things in there, but we just weren't as efficient as we needed to be.
You told me going into the season one of the strengths as far as your depth's concerned has been at running back, and it still seems that way, and we only got 2 to go in the season. My point being, Mask really had a good ball game. Did a nice job. Seems like he's growing as a receiver as well. He's doing a lot of good things.
Yeah, he's a couple games in a row here with 150-plus all-purpose yards, and that's that's doing it pretty good. Losing losing number 3, that takes his toll. I mean, he was leading the conference in all-purpose yards, when all that happened. But it's been great to see, as we talked about changing the parts. When we put that part in, he picked up with carrying the ball right where Thomas had left off there, which has been good to see. And some other guys have filled the void in some of the return game with Anthony Mullins coming in and doing some really good stuff there too. So we just got to continue to improve there.
Quarterback play. I thought Nick didn't throw an interception. And what I like about Nick West coaching, and this is from my viewpoint as an old coach, he'll make some mistakes. This is like his only 5th start, in his college career. But he gets back up.
He does.
And he gets back up and he makes plays after he's made a mistake. And he got beat on pretty good.
Yeah.
They had 5 sacks and 11 tackle for losses in the ball game. So, and he was pressured. We didn't keep that stat, but he was pressured quite a bit.
Right.
But he kept on battling.
He did, and I think if he was sitting here right now, he'd be frustrated with himself about some plays he feels like he normally would make. And I think, he's maybe was cautious about not making sure he didn't throw interceptions, and in that, as playing the quarterback position, it's a fine line between, being the glory and being the GOAT and
kind of like coach.
Yeah, I mean, you're good quarterbacks are going to throw interceptions.
Right.
If they're making the plays that you need them to make,
bet.
there's going to be some of that in there.
Because the ball's in his hand.
Yeah, exactly. When you play it a little bit too safe on the other side of it, you're not going to make some of the plays maybe you've made in the past. And he's it's hard to believe this is only his 5th start. He's learning a lot of things as he goes about college football as well, and continues to and will continue to as we move forward. I think it's just going to get nothing but better.
Well, that ends this segment of Inside the Cardinal Playbook. We're going to come back and talk a little bit about this coming week's opponent, St. Joe, also a conference game, which will be at 1 o'clock here at William Drew College. Cardinal fans, welcome to this segment of Inside the Cardinal Playbook. And Charlie, I don't know if this does justice for what all you do for this college, but being a trainer is an almost thankless job that has to be done, and expectations are high. And it's a nonstop deal. You might want to just talk about, do you ever sleep?
Very little. Very little. Always have something on your mind of what you could do better, get that kid out on the field as quick as possible without hurting him worse. So always something to do.
Well, people don't realize, too, in a university or college this size, that you take care of the entire sports program. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about, and I guess this is what I would ask you if we were just sitting down visiting with each other. How do you run it? In other words, let's take the fall. And Saturday we play football. And you're normally going to have some situations in football. But you also, in this league, have a lot of soccer. You have a lot of volleyball. And those type of things on the weekend, too. How do you try to manage that during the week and to take care of all those athletes?
During the fall, I have a staff of an assistant, certified athletic trainer, and a graduate assistant. I take care of football. My assistant takes care of men's, women's soccer, and then our GA takes care of volleyball. So I'm one person with 92 football players. Right. It makes it a little bit tough, but at least I have a balance of having other people help out with the other sports. I kind of oversee everything, but they have their own responsibilities, which is a huge help.
Oh, well, it'd have to be. People don't realize, but like when we went to Colorado, we had the injury where we had an athlete that had to get operated on. How do you handle that kind of situation? And I guess what I would consider as a parent, now forget that I was a football coach and an AD and all that stuff, but as a parent or a grandparent in my case, how do you handle that when you have an emergency where somebody has to stay over as far as surgery and that type of thing?
Communication, work with the coaching staff. I'm lucky enough that one of our coaches was able to stick around and stay with the athlete and get him back. That was a huge help to us because on Sunday we do treatments. So you're kind of torn on where you need to be at. Yeah, ideally, we'd like to have a bigger staff, but luckily a coach could stay with them, and I could be back here with all the other injuries that we had going on, trying to get them ready for the next week.
On the average, let's just say football, I don't think, like you said, you're dealing with 92 kids. On the average, you see anywhere from, I would say, 10 to 15 kids after a game?
Easily.
Yep. Because we're talking about the ice baths or whatever they may need. How do you go through the process to see exactly when you see a kid, which way you're going to go? I mean, how do you do that?
Just kind of base it off of the history that they tell me. Do an evaluation of them, see how severe it is, decide what type of treatment we need to perform. If it's something serious enough, we usually have our team orthopedics show up on Monday morning.
Right.
We'll have them see them if it's that way. Otherwise, we just start progressing with modalities, stretching, rehab, anything that we can do to try to get them ready for the next week.
Sometime I hope we get some time together. We'll get off the cameras and talk, but concussions, that's a big concern. As an old coach, probably my biggest regret, Charlie, is that we didn't know more about it, and we were totally ignorant, which is no excuse. And I have regrets about that as an old coach, talk a little bit about the concussion protocol.
Concussion protocol, we base it off of their symptoms. We ask them a series of questions, ranking them on a scale of 0 to 10. And then they all start out the season by taking a baseline test, which is done on a computer impact test. After they are symptom-free, we take another impact test, and we compare their baselines, refer them to our general orthopedic physician or general practitioner physician. If he clears them, then we do a 5-step return to play protocol. And it starts with light activity and gradually increase that activity back into the sport.
Is that basically what the NFL is doing too?
More or less, just at a faster
clip. Yeah. I do you feel any added responsibility with so much emphasis put on concussions right now?
Definitely. Always want to be cautious and take a little bit more time, even if the kid feels they're ready to go. I never want to have something happen to a kid under my watch.
Yeah, I totally get that, and I really found that, I think, becoming athletic director when you're in charge of everybody, you even felt more like it. I'd like to get in, we don't have enough time, but, we need to have you back, Charlie, because I think that the alumni and the parents and stuff would really like to listen to some of the things that you know and how you go about handling, because that's important to them. Or maybe we can have you back next football season early. We talk about heat, because, again, that's another area I wish I knew more about. Charlie, I know that there's nobody other than maybe Rick Cole who works any harder than you do as far as time put in all around with all that, athletes. You're never home, you never sleep, but the kids really do appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
You bet. Charlie, great having you on. Keep up the good work. Hopefully your business isn't really heavy this week. That's always a good thing. That finishes this segment of Inside the Cardinal Playbook. Cardinal fans, welcome back to Inside the Cardinal Playbook. And we're going to talk about, we got a quick 3 minutes here, we're going to talk about this week's opponent, St. Joe. We play here at home at 1 o'clock. Yep. But I've been following, not like you have, but I've been following pretty closely. They've been up and down, too. There's no rhyme or reason. Some of the teams we played, some of the scores really don't indicate how good or bad a team is.
As you look at their scores in conference play, especially, which is how I measure it, because that's the only like things that you can measure. Sure. In conference play, they're very similar to us from the standpoint is they haven't won a game by more than one score, and their losses have been, to some people we've beaten to some people we've lost to. So, there's no great comparison to make, I guess, as it all shakes down. The thing for us is they're going to be the comparison on Saturday, and when we actually get out there and get a line up against them, this has been a pretty close game, or a competitive game over the last 3 years that we played them. Our first ever NCAA Division II win, coming out of the NAIA was at St. Joe.
I was there.
And they beat us the last two, which have been close. Last year we're up, early in the first half, and they battle back into it. We lose in overtime on a field goal. Or field goal to go into overtime there, and so it's been a back and forth battle. For whatever reason, the last couple of years have been really high scoring games, and I wouldn't say that either of us are those, that type of team. We're going to go put 60 on the board, and so it'll be an interesting game on Saturday. They've, offensively they run it as good as anybody in the country. I think they had 300 and some yards against University of Indianapolis last week. Running the football, and that's doing it against a really good run defense from UIndy. And then, they can throw it too. And, defensively, they got a couple linebackers running around I think are some of the best in the conference, and some other guys around them that can make plays. And, when you have that dynamic of guys, you're going to be good in special teams as well, which they are. And so we're going to have to you always hope when you get down to the end of the season here, as we talked about in some former shows, that you're always striving for that perfect game where you play well in all phases, play as well as you think you should play in all phases. And we haven't had that yet this year, so hopefully we're saving our best for last.
Can you believe that we really are coming to the end of the season? It is shot by. Now, I know for you live here.
Yeah.
You spend half your time sleeping on that couch, but it's hard to believe that the season's about ready to come to an end.
It seems like it goes by a little faster every year, and you could probably talk to this. You've been doing a lot more years than I have, but it seems like every year it goes that much faster, and I don't know why that is. But, this has been a fun group to work with, and we're fortunate to get a chance to work with them for a couple more weeks here and plan to go out on a good note.
Well, Cardinal fans, again, that wraps up this week of Inside the Cardinal Playbook. Again, our quick reminder, last game of the year, last home game of the year against St. Joe in the GLVC, and we hope to see everybody there this Saturday at 1 o'clock here at Williamsville College.